y'all, and we're back with another episode of Alumni on Air. And for those of you that are new, my name is Jamisha Hayes. I'm the Managing Director of Programs and specifically of the Alumni team and the Pre-Service team. And on the camera, we have the Director of Alumni Communications, James Larkin. Thank you, James, for everything you do, because without you, we would not be organizing together. So thank you. But today we're talking about Alumni on Air. As you know, this is our series where we talk about what our alums are doing, the impact they're having as they lead and live into and lead into one day. And we have a very special guest with us, Mary Elizabeth McCollum. And I might have stuttered on that because she just got married. Yay! So I am like literally still learning the new last name, but I'm so excited. Your husband is so handsome. Your family is so amazing. I just love it. The pictures were gorgeous.
Well, that means a lot. I just talked to Misha's ear off talking about all the pictures, so she really did see them all.
I loved it. I loved every minute of catching up and hearing about it. And so I can't wait for you all to meet this amazing woman and just her story of being a native Memphian, but also going away and coming back. And so while we're here, as you're listening, think about that experience of the idea of going away and coming back. And when you come back, what do you bring back with you? Okay, let's jump in. So, who are you? Tell me your name. I know we just said it, but you say it yourself because I might have butchered it.
You did a great job. I'm Mary Elizabeth McCollum. I used to be Mary Elizabeth McCollum. It's been so funny thinking about changing my last name because I love Mary Elizabeth. It feels so southern and just like so perfect for Memphis. But then McCollum, my dad and his parents immigrated here from Greece when my dad was 4, when they settled in Oxford, Mississippi. So how we made the transition from Greece to Oxford is something I'll never quite understand. But I'm so thankful that they did. And then, McCollum came from my marriage, which is really exciting.
It is so exciting. So it's like fresh, like November 11th, right?
So fresh. We're like 2 weeks fresh.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it.
Wow.
And so you kind of gave a little bit of the history behind your father, but anything else about your history behind your name or any stories you want to tell about your name? Because I think it's so funny when we're named things. I'm a junior, so Jamisha is James. My dad's name is James, right? And so, so that's how I got. So I'm his junior. My whole name is his name, but just the feminine ending.
That is amazing.
Yeah. So that's my story.
You know, here's where I think this comes from, and watch it. My mom and dad are gonna watch this. That is not where that came from. I know my mom's name is Elizabeth, and my maternal grandmother's name was Betty Lou. So we kind of passed down the Elizabeth situation with me. I think marriage is biblical. So I think when I was in high school, I looked it up. It means like bitter gift of God, if you're gonna put that together, which doesn't really sound promising. I was like, oh, we probably should have looked into this a little bit more. But I love it, and I love too because my name is so long. I have so many nicknames. And it's sweet. It's like what someone calls me, I know the time in my life that they knew me from. So that's always a sweet thing that I think about.
I love that. I had the same scenario. Speaking of just coming back from break, and I had my aunt, and she met my boyfriend, and she was like, "Oh, you talking about so and so?" And I'm gonna tell you my nickname because I have lots of them. And if you say this name, I hate this nickname specifically. And I was just like, "Oh no, you did not pull that one out." I was like 5. I did one thing, and I was like, "Give my name in the family." And so the other day he was like, "Yeah, what was that name?" I said, "I would never say it again. If you didn't hear it, you didn't hear it. I'm not telling you." But it's I had the same thing. So if you know me from different stages of my life, there are different nicknames to go with it.
We know we're gonna ask you as soon as the camera turns on.
Oh my gosh, I'm not telling anybody that name. Okay. Well, I am excited to jump into this experience and talking about your core experience. We talk about reimagining what's possible, but the first thing that you had to reimagine or think about is the idea of like, I want to join Teach for America. So what was your core year? And tell me a little about your placement information. Like, how did you come from, like, growing up in Memphis and getting to where you ended up? I'm not going to tell them yet, but getting to where you ended up in the poor. Just give us the whole shebang.
Oh, my gosh. Well, if I'm talking too long, you're going to cut me off because I get so excited about it. I grew up in Memphis, went to a private school. I loved it. And then when I was honestly, probably grew up in like pretty much a bubble, if I'm just going to be honest.
Right.
And I really appreciate my parents for doing a lot to get us out of that bubble, but you just don't know what you don't know until you're in the middle of it. So when I was in high school, I got to know some friends that went to Booker T. Washington, and one in particular is smart as a whip. Like, he was so much smarter than I will ever be, and it was just hilarious. And so it's really my first experience and understanding of, like, man, like, our experiences are totally different, and there's not a lot I can come up with except just we were born into different neighborhoods, different families, different ethnicities, cultures, things like that. And so that really, it bothered me. And then more than that, this particular, and this is probably, looking in hindsight, I'm sure I knew such a small picture of what actually happened. But from what I understood, the student was expelled because of a policy issue. I think he had on some real nice white shoes, and he always looked very together. Someone insulted him. He got to a fight at a football game. He was expelled because of a policy issue, and then wasn't let back into school because of that policy issue. And so it happens with so many people. If you got a lot of time, kind of bored, and he just got involved in some things that really changed his life trajectory. And unfortunately, that person is no longer with us. And so I think about, like, man, like, what was different in our lives? It was truly where we went to school. And ever since that moment, I have just, like, education, and especially education in Memphis, has just captured my heart. So I really thought I wanted to do education policy. And as I went through college, I had an education minor, I had a math minor, I was, like, majored in policy, but I was like, man, if I ever want to do this, it feels really silly to be writing policy if I've never actually, been in the classroom. So I applied to Teach for America, and I remember I was sitting in one of my classes, and I was like, I have no idea where to place myself. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, Memphis is home, the Mississippi Delta is home. I went to Ole Miss, and my family was like, hey, we love you, but, like, we think you need to get out and see something different, and then come back. And come back different than you were before in a positive way. So at the last minute, this was when you ranked, so I didn't get to pick where I was. I'm gonna answer your question eventually.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
I was like, I forgot the question.
You're doing great. You're telling it.
And so at the last minute, I was like, man, Texas seems cool. Oklahoma seems cool. We had to put a high risk area down, and my friend was sitting next to me. He was like, oh wait, that's my hometown. I was like, great, I'm putting that on the list. That sounds wonderful. So I was placed in DFW. I was at H. Grady Spruce High School in the 2016 core year, and it's just changed everything.
So you're taking me back, because in those who've watched this know my story of, like, I definitely 2011, I remember having to rank.
Yes.
I was at Rhodes, and I remember the story I heard before I applied was that if you put down your hometown, you're not going there. So I legitimately put Memphis down just because I'm always going to be loyal to Memphis, but I wanted to get away. I was like, I know I'm going, I put Hawaii as number 1 or up there at the top.
You're out.
I was like, I had started buying bikinis. Like, I was like, I'm going. And I got that email. It was like, no, you're staying. So I love that you got an opportunity to go away. And that's in 2016, outside of 2011, 2016 I'm hearing I can't deny, it's a core year that has just had a major impact. I mean, I just know so many 2016s who are just doing so many awesome, amazing things. And y'all, I don't know, that 2016 energy was insane.
Awesome. We had a really wild year. In the best way.
In the best way. When I think about, because I was on staff then, it's just like that 2016 core was just powerful in a way that I just never realized before.
I had no idea. And then when I think about, especially, well, in my mind, it's still 2016 and I'm still that age.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right? And then I look around and I'm like, man, I have friends who are principals, who are executive directors, I have 2 friends who've been teacher of the year X amount of years running. I mean, there's some real powerhouses that I got to know. Amazing people.
And so speaking of so when you decided to join the Corps, we got that story. And we got so tell me about this whole experience in the Corps. So I want to hear more about, so you were in Dallas. You get to Dallas. I have never went to Dallas in terms of Teach for America. So I would love to hear more about what that experience was like. What was that institute back then for you still, right?
Yes.
Okay, institute, yeah. And for those who don't know, pre-service is what we call it now, but institute is what a lot of us who were before.
That is really good to know. So institute started out, I walked in, I had never, I grew up in Memphis and then went to Ole Miss, so I'd never left this area. So it's 5 days after I graduated from college. All my friends are staying in the area, and I am heartbroken. So one of my best friends hopped in the car with me. We hit the road to Dallas. I remember my sweet dad let me borrow his car because it was bigger, so I could move all my stuff. And there are like 17 different lanes, and it's like, 35, 35, 30 west, 30 east. I mean, all these different places. I had to pull over on the side of the road. I'm like crying. I'm like, I can't even find SMU to get to Institute because the city is too big. We get there. I end up, we were moving the bed to rearrange the room. Headboard fell on my head, carved my head open. So I have not been in Dallas for more than 45 seconds, and I am like known as the girl who had like peas strapped to her head. I had to go to campus health to get my head glued back together. So my first moment at pre-service or institute was, I'm probably concussed. I'm on a campus tour, and like we're talking about teaching kids. I had no idea which way was up. And as I look back, it's such a weird metaphor, but it's I just think about jumping into the deep end when I think about institute or pre-service. We I just had no idea what I was doing. I had the most wonderful support in the entire world, and I met I just got married, and 4 of the girls that were bridesmaids, I met at TFA. So it just, I learned so much. That summer was also really neat because, if I could say this, there was a shooting in downtown Dallas, and several of our core members were there. And so I think that was also bonding in a different way to kind of understand like what was happening in the world at that moment, and then the fact that we were in a city where things like that were happening. It's bonding in a really different way. And so it was such a special experience. It was, when I say special, it was positive 100%. I think so often we think of positive as only happy or only joyful. And while there were absolutely those moments, there was also moments of growth, refinement, challenge that, my gosh, it like changed my whole perspective on the world, and heavens, I would not be here without it, that's for sure.
Yes. And that's just something to take in, this idea of those catalytic moments that are unplanned that can transform your life. And sometimes it is those breakdowns, as I like to say, that lead to a breakthrough.
100%.
And that it's those tough times. I think as much as people gripe about institute or pre-service, it is those times that you laugh about and talk about and pull you back in. And years later, you might not. You appreciate it in a different way.
100%.
You appreciate that experience. And so let's get into this core experience, because I think we're almost at the so what did you teach when you were in Dallas, and what was that teaching experience like?
I loved it so much. Y'all are gonna be teary because I love my kids so much. I taught pre-cal, SAT prep, and algebra 2. So my first year I taught 10th graders and 12th graders, and then those 12th graders graduated. I moved up with the 10th graders, taught them in 11th and then 12th grade. Teaching was amazing. It is the hardest thing I've ever done. It is the best thing I've ever done. I remember the first moment, just for all of y'all, this will happen, it happened to y'all, I'm curious what everyone's experience was like. I remember sitting there in front of the classroom, and this kid, I can say his name, he's an adult now, Brandon Clopton, was looking at me like he just had me made. Like, I'm telling all these kids that I'm 27, I'm 28, and I was 22, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I'm sitting up there, and this group of kids like, this is it. We're doing the thing, and we're gonna build the plane as it takes off.
Oh my gosh.
And it was awesome. But as I look back, I'm so thankful to my children, because, and to all the elementary school teachers, all the middle school teachers, I very much was able to manage their relationships, which made me a great junior, senior high school teacher. It would not have made me a good 3rd grade, 4th grade, anything under that teacher. My children are saints, and we learned a lot that year. It was all 3 years. I mean, it was just the most wonderful experience, and it was so awesome with that SAT prep class especially. We were just right on the cusp, and so we were really data driven. We're able to look at, this is our average across the board. Kids kind of self-elected, and were hand-selected to go to that class of like, man, like, we know that you can do this, and we know that you can reach these scores and reach these scholarships with this coaching. And so to watch kids get behind something, take ownership of it, get community involvement. The community got involved of like, man, that stinks. Like, these kids are having to come in on a Saturday and take the SAT. Yeah, let's get them, food, breakfast, let's hype them up. We're gonna, make this a celebratory event, and then to watch them work so hard over those 2 years, and then the outcomes that they had, that was really amazing, and so rewarding, because pre-cal as a senior in high school is unique. It's not everybody's cup of tea.
So no one of in mind, I'm not good at math.
And I think about, I was one student in particular, I was her first math teacher since the 8th grade.
Oh, wow.
And that was her senior year of high school. She had substitutes 9th, 10th, and 11th grade.
Right.
And so, how are you supposed to learn pre-cal if you never learned geometry or algebra 2 or anything like that? So, having those two experiences of, with the SAT class, with every kid's on the same playing field, and then being able to just push them and watch them see those gains, and then in pre-cal saying like, no, you can learn math, you just were never taught.
Right.
And watching those light bulbs go off was so wonderful.
I love that, being able to have that double consciousness moment of being able to see something and see different sides of it, and you be there as that person to see what absolute greatness can look like when we are like really providing our kids with all the support they need, and the community engaging with that and supporting that. And then also seeing on the other side of the coin is like what happens when we don't do what we need to do in education, when we don't provide our kids with quality education, quality teachers who are dedicated, quality support for those teachers who are dedicated, but like it's a lot of stuff going on trying to be a teacher, so that every year a child has a quality licensed teacher in their building. I think that's amazing. I think that's it. And it makes me think about, as we get ready to take a pause, this idea of the both ends, with other sides of the coin. Think about yourself. Think about when you were the kind of like that middle piece. You're on one side of the coin looking at something, and you're looking at how something is really great, really amazing. And then on the other side, where you're like, hey, this is like not great and amazing. And I think as we get into what Mary Elizabeth does, or what she did post her core experience, it starts getting you to thinking about this idea of how do you take care of yourself in those moments when you feel torn in those two pieces. I think most people are faced with this idea of, I believe and I see what is possible, and I'm also simultaneously seeing how this is not possible. What do you do in those moments? How do you persevere through? Or how do you make a choice that still supports your vision, but in a different path? All right, we will come back, y'all.